right?
No. I thought about doing like a podcast though. Why, you don't want your voice on?
I'd prefer not to.
Yeah, I understand. I would like to purpose it in some way. You guys can have a copy, of course. But I try to give certain stuff away to kind of help with promotion and enrollment. Especially in a class like this, it's real hard. This is one of those classes where I'd be willing to bet that you go to all the major vendors, each of them have like 2 or 3 students, but if you can coagulate that into like 1 or profit share or something like that, then you're gonna have a class of like 5 or 10 rather than like 2 or 6. But the odds of this ending up on YouTube are probably slim to none, as in very slim to none. Like I have other stuff, other classes like CISSP classes and things like that that I put on there. But whatever, it's even a questionable conflict of interest. And like we've already started throwing out names and agencies and stuff like that. And I don't like to put that stuff on YouTube simply because it's
Exactly. That's what. That's what.
You never know who's listening. You know,
who might not like it, and God forbid, in my opinion, God forbid the agency hears it, and then all of a sudden we could be compromised whether or not we.
No, I might take snippets of it, but probably when I get more on my rants, like the CIA triad, something like that, so where it would be completely neutral and out of context, something like that, I might snip it out.
Sure.
Purpose for some, that would be on YouTube, but purpose in some functional way, but no, the strategy is not YouTube to death.
Well, I have the same issue.
Yeah.
Especially with
the agency.
Identifying people.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you said that, I was like, there is YouTube. Because you never know. I mean, it could be, you guys listening to it on YouTube, but you never know who's into it. I don't like discussing interagency details.
Especially if I would bash my agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Well, you never know. People have it in for the agency.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they have it in for you.
Nah. But you guys, I would give you probably Friday. I'll just burn all of this either to a CD or something, and you guys can have. I'll give you. I'm not going to edit it for you guys because it just takes too long. I've tried that, but in the past, and it just never gets done. 4 months later, they're like, "Hey, where's the video?" I'm like, "I haven't edited it yet." So I'll just give you guys the raw, and you can just fast forward in the car to the boring parts. So it's more for you guys than it is for me.
Yeah,
but there are snippets that I want.
It'll definitely be helpful to us to have the audio.
But again, that all is under the assumption that I actually have time to sit and edit it, because for every 40 hours of recording, or whatever that ends up being, it's about 40 hours of editing. I just have to go through it basically and listen and cut and all this stuff. So it becomes a pain in the ass really to edit this stuff. I've got tons and tons of filming and different courses, and some of them turn out better than others. And like CISSP, you can literally just watch video after video of me doing that. But ethical hacking, that's a very, very hard class to capture anyway, audio or video, because all of the hands-on labs and I'm always running around trying to be over my shoulder. So there's a lot of dead time and lack of content. So so some parts I'll probably snip it out, but probably more of just me talking than your voice. But, or I send you what I want to purpose, and you guys can quick edit it and say go, no go on it. So you guys got the final say regardless. But again, it would be more the neutral content than anything else. All right, so let's talk FIPS 199. FIPS 199. Let's look this stuff up. And you get a nice PDF here from NIST. It's good to reference that quickly. Pull it up. You guys don't necessarily have to duplicate it, but to pull it up if I'm pulling it up. But again, the code of learning says that if you do it, you remember it. So the purpose of this document. Also notice in the forward here, NIST comes up. Federal Information Security Management Act 2002, eGov law comes up. And then again, FIPS pub. It's kind of funny that the FIPS publication is authoritated by the FIPS publication. All right. So what's the purpose? I don't know if you guys can see that.
Standards and guidelines?
There you go. That's what I want you guys to be able to do. Quickly key in on those keywords or minimums. Right? Exactly. Who's it applicable to? Basically, all information in the federal government. So basically, nobody gets out of this. It's the category of information. So this is the second time you're seeing this. I wonder how important that's going to be. And furthermore, it's a ISC squared exam, so I can guarantee you that you must know the difference about confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and which documents cite such language. So FIPS specifically, actually what it says inside FIPS, it says the security objective is the FISMA. So FIPS specifically identifies FISMA as the authority of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the same thing, your keywords come up again. And actually this is cited from the US Code. That's what this means when you have that format at the end. It means basically the verbiage was taken from that document. So the same thing applies there. So the potential impact. So here's the meat of this. Low, moderate, or high. These are your rating systems. So FIPS in itself addresses your rating system. Would you like some easy points in your practice exam? No? All right, I'll move on.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry.
There you go.
I was trying to get to it, sorry.
There you go. Actually, if you're on this document,
Got it,
go
yep,
to page
yep,
2.
Got it.
Watch the language.
All right, what do you say now? I'm sorry, I was just trying to open it up.
There, you got it? You got it open? Ready, got it open?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 2, specifically, FIPS 199 talks about the impact levels. So before we had the classification, the confidentiality, integrity, availability, now we have the impact combined with that. So the 3 points basically is watch these words. Limited adverse effect. Serious adverse effect. Or severe or catastrophic adverse effect. That one word, there's one word differences between that changes your answer. If you miss those key words, you're done. Right? So FIPS speaks to the specifically rating the systems and the impacts to the systems. So this is more risk orientated versus policy, procedure, or guideline, baseline, or standard. This is risk management framework oriented because of the impact. Right here, I want you to basically look at this. This is huge. You gotta get this piece. This would be your security control, and later I'll get into the different control types. But basically, the confidentiality multiplied by the impact, integrity by the impact, availability time to impact. All 3 of those together make up the rating for the security control.
Sweet, your high watermark.
Sorry?
The high watermark.
Right. All right, so you
So it's,
go ahead.
okay, is confidentiality, time impact, is that what you're saying?
Well, it's
Or time integrity?
each of these gets rated separately, so it'd be the impact to confidentiality, the impact to integrity, the impact of availability, and they just happen to reference, it could be severe, moderate, or low.
And there's some examples, I think, right underneath that, if you scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But when we get to other documents later, these classifications, or the the security categories will change. So right now this is completely in the generic sense. So you might want to write this down, but FIPS speaks generically. I forget what the NIST document is. It might even be in the appendix of the eGov Act, but they actually list all of your categories. Eventually we'll see, I just can't think of the number off the top of my head. But you'll have a whole appendix of all of the SCs. Now for the CAP exam, you have to know it from the high level. For the FITSE manager's exam, you have to know the actual categories. So FITSE, the Federal IT Security Institute, they take it one step further and go in depth even more. So that's why the FITSE exam is actually harder. All right, so basically here you go. Look, and again, watch the wording: confidentiality, limited adverse effect, serious adverse effect, or severe or catastrophic adverse effect as it relates to confidentiality, integrity, or and notice your keywords come up here: confidentiality, unauthorized disclosure, protecting, that's generic, privacy. Again, keywords with confidentiality, all that stuff comes out. So again, that's why we made those list of keywords, because you're going to see those words recycled over and over and over and over again. So if you don't isolate them, then you can't distinguish between them. But now that I've pointed them out clearly, all the keywords for confidentiality, now you can start picking out what I refer to as keywords on a test. When you're taking test questions, you got to find the keywords. The keywords make the correct answer correct or the wrong answer wrong. Like, for example, if you ever missed the word not on a test, that was the key word. So you answer the question correctly, but if you throw that not in there, then all of a sudden your answer changes. That's the key word, or one of the keywords. So now I can highlight the keywords so you can go, okay, yeah, that all fits in confidentiality. Or destruction. I don't like destruction personally under integrity, but modification, changing, altering, and then throwing in non-repudiation and authenticity. So authenticity means that you are who you say you are. You can go through some sort of access control and prove that you are a specific person. And then non-repudiation, meaning that you don't need the ability to deny it. Repudiates the deny. All right. So what was this? That was the terms and definition. See, this document itself, it is completely generic. None of the controls are listed. So FIPS says, in the big picture, FIPS says, hey, you're going to determine the impact of confidentiality, integrity, and availability in the rating of a low, medium, or high for any security control. Completely generic. Which is why you'll see it in just about every federal document you'll see a reference to FIPS 199, FIPS 199. It's all over the place. It's littered because they're using it in the generic sense. So in that case, okay, you have a policy somewhere that FISMA, in this case, FISMA is the policy, the Management Act is the policy of the rules. The rules say that we're going to evaluate confidentiality, integrity, and availability in terms of low, medium, or high. But where do they get the actual controls? Policies, procedures, guidelines, baselines, or standards?
I'm sorry, say that again?
This document, FIPS 199, says, hey, per FISMA, we have to do this. FIPS 199 says confidentiality, integrity, availability, low, medium, and high in a generic sense. So where do we get the specific sense? Do we get them from policies, procedures, guidelines, baselines, or standards?
Standards.
Well, guideline or standard because it comes from NIST. But I think it's a guideline because it's, if I'm not mistaken, 853. Where's where all the security controls are? Yes, is that the, am I on the right document, 53? I don't want to say 53 if I'm wrong, but there is a specific NIST document that says, we'll get to that in a little bit. But there's a specific NIST.
53 is security
Controls? Okay, good. And then again, I might get the numbers wrong myself because I don't think in numbers. I don't think really anybody does. So that's why it's important to go back to what is this stuff again? So it's the security controls document. That's the guidance for the specific categories, and that's changed over time. So very important document. That's FIPS 91. The standards for minimum security requirements. That's FIPS 200. So FIPS 189, the key word here is the categorize, circle categorize. Because if you go back to it and you go back in here, it speaks generically to these guys right here. Everybody look up. These guys right here. That's the generic category that they're referring to. As opposed to the minimum security requirements, that's FIPS 200. You can come in this one, a little longer document. And again, FIPS Pub, Information Technology Management Reform Act of 96. All right, so FIPS 200 minimum. Security Standards minimum. E-Government Act, Title 3, FISMA reference once again. Comes out of Secretary of Commerce. That's your puppy over here. And here are, yes, these are the in this case FIPS 200. They do specify the categories. These would be, if FIPS 199 is generic, FIPS 200 is more specific, but they only it's still generic because they only say, okay, you're going to have one for access control, awareness and training, audit and accountability, certification, and let me zoom in a little bit. Audit and accountability. Now, lucky for you guys, on the CAP exam, you do not have to memorize what each one of these is, but it's basically the 2-letter code, if you will, for that category. Just a short abbreviated version. So like I never would have thought AU would be audit and accountability, but it's the audit and I guess the U and accountability that they figured that out. Certification, accreditation, and they go through all of the categories: maintenance, media protection, planning, personnel security, services acquisition, and then the control selection. So the control selection, and then this is repeated at this point for low impact, moderate impact, or high impact as defined in which document? Where does this come from?
Low, moderate, and high for 199.
Yeah, one from 199. So you can see the reference to 199, even if they don't specifically say 199. But you'll get the, let's see, look at the wording here. But they do say specifically, but go to NIST 853 for the specifics, and that's where we'll get into the specific controls. You notice A130 is referenced. That comes out of Office of Management and Budget. And then the rest of this is just generic, errata, or definitions, if you will. There's nothing really important after that. So, but notice on the references, right, you can see how this stuff is recycled. CNSS, E-Government Act, we hit that one. FIPS 199, we hit that one. FISMA, we hit that. Specifically, Title III. Information Technology Reform Act. And actually, GISRA should be in here too. That's not. And I guess acronyms, and that's it.
I have a question.
Oh, please go ahead.
On these controls, where you were talking about the 2-letter acronyms, in 853, the next one that talks about the security controls, are those acronyms consistent? Mm-hmm. So if PE is physical and environmental in FIPS 200, exactly. It's going to be PE in 853, so you don't have to remember 2 different sets of acronyms that mean the same thing.
Lucky for you, thank goodness, right?
Yes.
No, all right, so what happens is you get all of these different agencies, right? And so let's say I'm over at I don't know, Office of Management and Budget. Remember, go back to the flow chart in the beginning of this section. Let's just do it. 18. Let me go back to here. You can see the relation of this. So let's point out this let's do it this way. I'm over here at the president's office. And so, actually that's not a good one. I'm over here at Congress. And then Congress will pull the verbiage as they make the law, hence FSMA, Management Act, they will look at NIST for guidance. So everybody references that NIST, that standard, if you will. Since 2001, that's what we've been doing. So it's all recycled. So the people over Congress, they pull the verbiage from NIST and basically recycle it. So that's why it's consistent, because everybody operates off what NIST basically publishes. So in that case, it's completely symmetric, if you will. All right, so, and then you have NIST 853. Let's just do each of these while we're here. NIST 800-53, and again, you can pull any NIST document up by searching for NIST 800- whatever the number is, and it'll pull right up. And it's you want the reference of CSRC, which is Computer Security Resource Center. So we pull NIST 853 up. Here's your why statement. Why do we have to do NIST? FSMA says this. It's public law. Also, there's guidance from OMB, or the President's Office.
So is this revision 3? Do I have the right copy? I just want to grab the right
scroll. Well, I'm sorry. Scroll up. It should say in the name.
It does. I just didn't know. I want to make sure I pulled the right one. Okay.
Yeah, you're on it. Normally, Google just pulls the correct one right at the top. So that's good. Then there's a bunch of crap in the beginning of this document. A reference to FIPS 199. And then in here, if you go, I would recommend getting used to the indexes. Recognize this stuff by the indexes. That way you can go directly where you want to go as quickly as possible. So in this case, you got introduction, the fundamentals, the process. The whole thing is 27 pages here, and then the references from that point out. So purpose and applicability. Purpose of this publication is to provide guidelines for, and again, this is a NIST document, so guideline. It's 800 documents, so it's a guideline. For selecting and specifying security controls. Okay. The target audience, individual, that's generic in that sense. The organizational responsibilities, you'll see FIPS 199, and that specifies is the head of each agency. And then this is a helpful piece here. Now, what I want to point out is this, and this gets a little bit harder if you want to attempt the FITSE certification, because you have to know which class is in which category, and it's TOM, technical, operational, and management. And so in my Palto example, A would be administrative or management. So technical is still technical, operational is still operational. They don't really address the physical security piece like I do with the Palto model, but you could look at it that way. But administrative would be the same as management. And here's basically your control, security control identifiers. And then basically you go through each one. Now on the FITSE certification, you actually have to know AU, the actual number. So you have to know AU5 is the response to audit processing failures. You're lucky that you don't have to know that for this exam. There's your risk management framework. So this the risk management framework. And then here again, the generic sense, right? That comes right from where?
Just one.
PIP's 199, and it actually says it. So again, the recycling of the information. So literally, I scan these documents and I can pick up the stuff that I need because I recognize certain things. So when I see this, I see it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. The average person just sees this and they go, I don't know what to make sense of that. But what you don't see is that's FIPS 199. That's the authority. That's where that comes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we've been involved in being asked to respond to a critical control review, these are the controls where they're pulling them from, more than likely?
Well, the criticality is the impact level. So FIP 199 says you're going to evaluate it low, medium, or high. Then you have what does it affect. So you have your impact, low, medium, or high, but what does it affect? The confidentiality, integrity, or the availability?
Well, what we've had to have, maybe I'm saying it wrong, is our program offices have their ISOs.
Sure.
And they do, as far as I know, what you've been talking about to this point. We then will get involved when they are put subject to a critical control review, and they'll ask us for information regarding access control and physical security, artifacts to back up whatever. We never see anything that's happened to that point. We just know what we've been asked to produce, and we don't have any of the background behind it.
Right,
So
our gopher, basically.
I'm assuming that they're pulling those critical controls and the access control and the physical security based off of these.
Right, they already hit the major categories up here, where the chart at. That guy right there. These are already predefined. So they may say, hey, we want to question your access control. So go give me the technical documents that support, Windows authentication or Kerberos or TACAX or Radius or...
Yeah, they usually have a number like AC5-1 or something like that, but I don't know what that AC5-1 is.
So are these, you saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Are these like operating units under your unit, under your office? Is that the way the structure is?
No, with
You said they have their own
with
ISOs.
OIT, Office of Information and Technology, we have program offices like the cargo system.
And they're
or the
responsible
passenger
for their
systems.
own
They
system.
do their own.
Okay.
But however, our...
Only because they manage the technical content.
Right.
Right.
You're making the guidelines and the policy.
But what we're at for physical control, or physical security and access control, is what we refer to as the race for restricted area. And all of those program offices have systems that reside in that restricted area.
Correct.
So when they go under these critical control reviews, they then come to us because they don't manage the physical security or the access
Right.
control. So we get to filter down, I need A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
Well,
However, we don't know why or where it's coming from because we're not
That's
involved in
this
that
side of
What's
part.
happening is there are a lot of common controls and stuff like that that they're failing on, and they're saying that we don't necessarily make or manage these controls. They come from our parent office.
This side.
So we're not going to go ahead and explain to the auditors why this control is what it is. Let's just get the guidance from the parent office, and in our documentation we reference the parent office. So in other words, your control for physical security is we have access control on the door. So when they're being assessed,
Right.
they're saying, how do you handle this physical control? Well, we don't, but our parent office manages that. Okay, let's see the documentation. And that's why they're asking you for the documentation so that they can show the auditors where that control is coming
Right, I'm
from.
just saying, well, we see the numbers, but we've never known where they're coming from.
Now this is the flip side of that
Right.
fence. This is the other side. So this is where your control categories come from. And this is generic. Granted that it identifies probably like 10 or 20 of them right there. They're actually much more specific than that. There's probably several hundred of them if you want to go to the granular level. So the parent agency would say, hey, we need this information from you. You don't necessarily know why we need to say, just go give me the information, right? And that's what you see on your
Right,
side of
we
the
get-
fence.
Yeah.
Now you see the
Isolated
background
piece.
niche and you understand that why do I need to do this? Because somebody's monitoring access control, contingency planning, training, planning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Agree?
Mhm.
Agree?
So did I say it okay?
No, you said that perfectly.
I mean, I didn't want to get off topic, but
No, that
I
was
kind of thought that how that associated with you.
no, that's perfect. And again, I always like the participation, especially in a smaller class. So you can get into some of the specific controls in here. they reference the risk management framework. In other words, this is going to be ongoing, so we could ask you this multiple times per the risk management framework. All right. Applying, selecting, specifying, and there's a whole section on that later. So also you have common controls and then security controls. So your common controls would basically be the big bucket, and then the security generic big bucket, and then the security objective would be the specific one. So you notice, look at the number associated. That's how you know if you're talking generic control.